It's an interesting time for business. Tariff and trade policies are dynamic, supply chains are squeezed, and cash flow, it's tighter than ever. If your business can't adapt in real time, you are in a little bit of hurt. So how do you get full visibility and adapt in real time? Over 42,000 businesses trust NetSuite by Oracle, your AI-powered business management suite. It brings accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR all under one roof. NetSuite is the #1 cloud ERP for a reason. It's your single source of truth, giving you the data and control you need to move quickly. Real-time forecasting helps you move into the future with confidence, and with AI built in, you can automate the busy work and focus on strategy. NetSuite helps you see what's stuck, what it's costing you, and how to pivot fast. If I were running a business with a lot of moving parts, I'd use NetSuite for full control over everything. Tame the chaos with NetSuite. If your revenues are at least in the 7 figures, download the free ebook, Navigating Global Trade, 3 Insights for Leaders at netsuite.com/SPI. That's netsuite.com/SPI. The perfect product launch. It's the goal for every brand marketer. High heat, fast sellout, and fans posting recipes like trophies. What do Sydney Sweeney's soap drop, Taylor Swift's tickets, and your next launch have in common? Well, they're not bought, they're bragged about. Fanfare turns your drop into a moment. Fanfare cues real fans, blocks bots, and builds launch experiences worth screenshotting. Want hype without the heartbreak? Get Fanfare's 5-step hype drop playbook with our proven success formula and make your next launch unforgettable at fanfare.io/playbook. Again, fanfare.io/playbook.
Welcome to the Smart Passive Income Podcast, where it's all about working hard now so you can sit back and reap the benefits later.
And now your host. He recently discovered that a way to get back hours of time was to lay off TikTok.
Pat Flynn.
Hey, based on the title of this podcast, Network Effect, you might think that I'm going to be talking about building relationships. Well, when it comes to business, everything has to do with building relationships, whether it's a relationship with your audience, a relationship with your team, or a relationship with other people in your industry. So that's kind of obvious. But we're going to go for the non-obvious route here when it comes to the network effect. And that is the idea of joining and or creating your own network. And I was inspired by this because I just heard about a student of ours in SPI, and she's a wonderful member of our community. Her name is Jillian with a G. And she has this incredible network for her podcast. And what I mean is she has a podcast called Sober Powered. She's somebody who had lived through addiction and was able to overcome it, and then is now sharing her stories and bringing other people on to share their stories about sobriety inside of her podcast. Again, it's called Sober Powered. First of all, just amazing job for spreading that knowledge and providing inspiration and hope for people who are definitely in need in there. It's a very important topic, obviously. But she has since created a network of podcasts, not podcasts that she also hosts, but she's been able to step forward and create a network called the soberpoweredmedia.com if you want to check it out. And what she's done is she's collected a number of other podcasts that are hosted by other people to collectively bring them together to help spread the word and to help amplify the messages and to cross-promote, as well as take advantage of bigger numbers together to attract more advertisers and to help these podcasters grow. And if you go to her website, soberpoweredmedia.com, you'll see her on stage talking, and then you'll also see it says, empowering podcasters to market, grow, and monetize. And I think this is a really cool idea. If you scroll down, you can actually see a lot of the other podcasts that she is now essentially helping. And she's helping them grow. She's helping them monetize, from Emotional Badass, the Hello Someday podcast, the Addicted Mind podcast, Real Talk Recovery, and then her own, and then another one, Moving Past Murder, which is an interesting one because there was a question that came in regarding her network. Now she has podcasts outside of the sobriety space wanting to get involved with this network because she's treating them so well and she's seeing that they're growing, etc. So this is a really cool model. I'm not going to go deeper into her model specifically, but just the idea of a network. Now, I have been asked to bring the Smart Passive Income podcast into various networks. I'm not going to mention any names, but I do want to talk about the pros and cons of that. So, besides Jillian just doing an amazing job of stepping forward to bring people and podcasts together, I mean, that's one strategy for sure, and there are many benefits to it. However, it does now require you to, take care of those other podcasts. And it doesn't have to be podcasts either. It could be a YouTube network. It could be a network of blogs, just a formal organization, if you will, of those media types. And it doesn't have to be all the same media type either, right? But the benefit of that is you are building this business. You are now able to capitalize on utilizing their audiences, not just to grow your own podcast, but to help all the other podcasts that are in there and also monetize more, right? You're attracting more advertisers and sponsors. You're able to charge more and thus take like a percentage commission from the advertisers that you're able to bring to these other podcasts. And this is really cool for smaller podcasts as well, or media types, because they're able to get access to audience growth. They're able to get access to sponsors that perhaps they wouldn't have normally been able to get access to. But it's the job as the network creator or the leader to be able to manage all that and organize it. And Jillian's doing an amazing job there. But then there's the other side, you joining an existing network. And what are the pros and cons of that? Well, there are many pros. The ability for you to have the sort of insignia or to be under that brand can come with a lot of clout, right? There are a lot of people in the HubSpot network. There is the Entrepreneur Network from Entrepreneur Magazine. There is a lot of other networks that are out there, right, that have really good podcasts that if you can associate with that network and therefore then be associated with those other podcasts that are in that network, it can give you a little bit more credibility. You're more able to potentially get different or higher level guests on your show. You are able to be guests on more shows as well. And you potentially can more easily start relationships and collaborate with a lot of the other, media creators that are on that network too. You are able to potentially get access to more advertising dollars through the relationships that the network can bring in. What typically happens is because there are multiple, let's just go with podcasts since we're talking about it, there are multiple podcasts in that network, maybe combined, there are millions of downloads when not one podcast has millions of downloads, but combined they do. But as a network creator, you can say, hey, advertiser, we have millions of downloads across our network. If you wanted to advertise, we can do that at the millions of impressions mark. And that can command a much bigger advertiser and a lot more spend, which can then be divvied up between those different podcasts, depending on how those contracts are done and the percentages and whatnot. And that is a pro to a podcaster coming in, but it's also potentially a con because in theory, you could potentially get those advertisers yourself if you are big enough and you do have those relationships perhaps at hand. Then you wouldn't need to, and this is the con, you would be sharing some of those advertising dollars with the network itself, right? So if you were to join, for example, HubSpot, and again, I'm just using that as an example. I don't know exactly what their terms are or how it works, but any advertising dollars that might come in get shared, and so you might make ultimately less than you would if it was a one-to-one relationship that you had. But again, the idea that you wouldn't be able to get these one-on-one relationships with these advertisers is the idea here. And so you're paying for access to these advertisers and sponsors. The networks may require you to say certain things or do certain things. Typically, there's some sort of requirement of, make sure you mention this at the end of your show, make sure you include this. Again, it's going to be on a case-by-case basis, and not every person in the same network may be offered the same deal, right? So it is something that you'll have to work out on your own, and you need to make sure that you're not giving up too much control because sure, you might be able to get a little bit more growth or a lot more growth and as well as income coming in, but at what expense, right? What are you giving to them? And also, you want to consider how much might that be worth, and you want to make sure that you're not being undercharged for that, if you will, in terms of the commission. Some of these networks, however, on the other hand, can also pay you a monthly fee. But on the other hand, I don't know how many hands there are, like more than two hands. Like there's different networks, right? You can get paid by the network, recurring monthly fee to be a part of the network and share the brand and be there for exposure. But there are other cases where you might have to pay the network, right? You might have to pay to play, and you might get that or more back from the advertising dollars that come in and the growth that happens and the down the road income that can come in from that growth. But in some cases, you have to pay to be a part of that network. And so there is a lot to be thought about here. And I've seen it time and time again where a lot of creators who are on the up and up, they are approached by a network and it just sounds perfect, right? More growth, more income. But then you got to remember that the network is looking out for itself as well. The network is often looking for the up and comers because they're going to be somebody who they could ride on your coattails as you grow, and they could benefit more as well. And so there's a lot of decisions. I have a student of mine in particular who had gone back and forth between a network that was pitching them incredibly high dollar amounts and incredible growth, but in exchange for quite a huge commission, as well as, a certain requirement of what advertisers they would have to have on the show. And from my latest conversation with them, they decided to opt out of that to continue doing it on their own. But a network can also provide you a lot of that heavy lifting that would be required if you were to do it on your own. For example, if you're looking for advertisers on your own, you have to go find them, you have to have relationships with them, you have to deal with them and negotiate and sign contracts and all that stuff. And it's like so much easier from an administrative point of view to just go, well, I'll have the network do all that, and the network just tells me what to say and when, and then I can, generate an income from there. So it is an interesting thing. I think, the two parts of this conversation, being a part of a network and also stepping up to create a network. I think we're going to see a lot more quote unquote networks come about in different spaces, private networks that can combine their numbers, combine their relationships and audiences together to do some amazing things. And I think, like in many cases, there's a good way to do it and a wrong way to do it. So just something to think about, some fodder for you here as we finish up January, because it could be a neat business model for you, especially if you seem to have a lot of connections in a space. That's exactly who this might be perfect for in terms of building a network or creating a network. You might have a lot of relationships. You might have a lot of leadership capability and say. You might seem to attract a lot of advertisers, in which case you might want to share around and bring other people along the ride, which is what I know Jillian's doing, and she's doing an amazing job of that and amplifying the message even more for people who need to hear it, especially in the world of sobriety and getting out of addiction and whatnot. So congratulations to Jillian, and to you. If this is like a spark worth exploring, definitely do that. If this is just another one of those ideas that you're like, okay, that sounds cool, maybe in the future, well, then definitely put it aside as well. But this is out there, this is happening, more and more people are doing this, and it's something that's not new, but I definitely think it is becoming more and more popular for, quote unquote, the regular person to be able to pull off something like this. And also for podcasters, especially as more and more podcasters are coming out and more of them are being seen and getting a spotlight, you're going to get asked by networks to join. And I just wanted to give you the sort of upfront pros and cons of that situation as well. So anyway, that's the network effect. It's a little bit different than probably what you thought going into this. But anyway, I appreciate you so much for listening. And I want to just continue to encourage you here at the end of January 2023, or whenever you're listening to this right now. But it's at this time of year, especially once we get into February, where a lot of those really exciting moments at the beginning of the year start to potentially fade away. I want you to treat February as if it's a brand new January 1st, right? Get re-excited about the goals, realign yourself, get motivated, put yourself in the right spaces mentally and physically to make it happen, and make sure you're getting involved with the right people. And if you do want to get involved with the right people who speak the same language as you in business, feel free to head over to our All Access Pass, smartpassiveincome.com/all access, which gives you access to all of our workshops, all of our courses, but more importantly, the right pathways through them and the right people to go along those pathways with you. So again, smartpassiveincome.com/all access. I appreciate you, and I look forward to serving you in the future. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Thanks for listening to the Smart Passive Income Podcast at smartpassiveincome.com. I'm your host, Pat Flynn. Our senior producer is David Grabowski. Our series producer is Paul Gregoris. And our executive producer is Matt Garland. Sound editing by Duncan Brown. The Smart Passive Income Podcast is a production of SPI Media. We'll catch you in the next session. I get it. You want to grow your business, but selling at scale feels overwhelming. You're drowning in complicated funnels, creating different lead magnets, or constantly posting on social media. And that gets exhausting fast, especially when you're trying to sell to hundreds or thousands of people. But what if you could sell at scale with a simple, powerful quiz? A score app quiz or assessment asks your audience key questions and gives them instant personalized results based on their answers. Your audience gets to know where they are now and shows them the steps they need to hit their goals. You can set up a quiz in minutes using Score App's templates and have a powerful lead magnet that'll do the selling for you. The best part is your audience actually wants to take this quiz, and you build huge amounts of trust before you even make a single offer. No hard sales, no chasing leads, just value at scale. Get 50% off the first 3 months using the discount code SPI. Just head to scoreapp.com/SPI. Again, that's scoreapp.com/SPI. Hey, fellow podcaster, does this sound like something you've experienced? You record your podcast episode on one platform, download the files, edit in another app, then fire up a different tool just to create these social clips. Well, it can be clunky, time-consuming, and frankly overwhelming, especially for creators trying to grow. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about Riverside. Riverside is the all-in-one platform. Record, edit, and repurpose your podcast content all in one place. You just log in, record with your guests no matter where you are in the world, and just like that, studio-quality audio and high-resolution video. We use Riverside here at SPI as well now. With built-in AI, I can automatically clean up my audio, saving myself so much editing time, and it can even auto-generate clips to make promoting the show a breeze. And with Magic Clips, I can grab the best moments and repurpose them as short-form video, perfect for YouTube Shorts, TikTok, or Instagram, without re-recording a thing. So if you're tired of juggling tools and want a faster, simpler way to create and scale your content, it's time to try Riverside, built by creators for creators. Just go to smartpassiveincome.com/Riverside and use code SMART to get 1 month free on the Pro plan. That's smartpassiveincome.com/Riverside, promo code SMART.